The Pacific Ocean crashed against the rocks below the deck as I arranged the fall centerpiece on the dining table. November sunlight streamed through the floor-to-ceiling windows of the Malibu beach house, illuminating the room where my family had gathered for Thanksgiving for the past 30 years. "Emma, honey, can you grab more wine glasses from the kitchen?" My mother called from the living room, where she was arranging photos on the mantel. "Your Uncle Richard brought 6 bottles of that expensive Napa Cabernet." I nodded silently, heading toward the kitchen. The house smelled of roasting turkey and sage stuffing, the same scents that had filled this space every November since I was a child. My grandmother had bought this property in 1985 for $340,000. Now, according to Uncle Richard's loud proclamations, it was worth $4.8 million. "Emma's being awfully quiet today," my cousin Jessica commented as I passed the living room. She was sprawled on the leather couch, scrolling through her phone, still depressed about the job situation. My mother sighed dramatically. "She's been like this for months, ever since that tech company laid her off. I keep telling her to just move back home to Arizona, but she insists on staying in that tiny studio apartment in Van Nuys." I said nothing, retrieving the wine glasses from the cabinet. Through the kitchen window, I could see my cousin Michael and his wife setting up folding chairs on the deck. They were discussing something animatedly, probably their renovation plans for their tract home in Riverside. "The real estate market is insane right now." Uncle Richard's voice boomed from the entryway. My father's older brother had always been loud, always been the center of attention. At 62, he still wore expensive suits even on holidays, his silver hair perfectly styled. "I just closed a deal in Manhattan Beach, $8 million for a teardown. The lot alone was worth it." He strode into the living room carrying a leather briefcase, his wife Diane trailing behind with shopping bags from boutiques in Malibu Country Mart. They'd clearly stopped for retail therapy on their way from Newport Beach. "Richard, you're just in time," my mother said, kissing his cheek. "We were just talking about what to do with this place." My hands froze on the wine glass I was holding. "Well, that's actually what I wanted to discuss with everyone," Uncle Richard said, setting his briefcase on the coffee table with a heavy thud. "I've been doing a lot of thinking, and I believe it's time we made some smart financial decisions as a family." I walked slowly back to the dining room, placing the glasses on the table with deliberate care. Through the open layout, I could see and hear everything happening in the living room. My father emerged from the master bedroom, where he'd been watching football. "What's this about, Richard?" "Dad's estate," Uncle Richard said, pulling documents from his briefcase. "Specifically this property. Mom's been gone for 3 years now, and we've all been sharing the maintenance costs and property taxes. It's time to be realistic." I continued setting the table, folding napkins into precise triangles. My hands were steady despite the acceleration of my heartbeat. "The annual property tax alone is $52,000, Uncle Richard continued, spreading papers across the coffee table, plus insurance at $18,000. Maintenance, utilities when we're not here. We're hemorrhaging money on sentiment." Jessica sat up, suddenly interested. "What are you suggesting?" "I'm suggesting we sell," Uncle Richard said flatly. "I've already had preliminary conversations with a buyer. Cash offer, no contingencies, close in 30 days. The room went silent, except for the distant sound of waves, and the football game still playing in the bedroom. "How much?" my father asked quietly. Uncle Richard smiled. $4.8 million. We split it 4 ways. Me, David, you 2 girls. He gestured to Jessica and her sister Lauren, who had just arrived from the bathroom. "That's $1.2 million each. Life-changing money." My mother's eyes widened. "Richard, that's generous of you to include the girls. They're family," Uncle Richard said magnanimously. "Mom would have wanted them taken care of. Besides, they've been helping with the maintenance costs." He glanced toward the dining room where I was working. "Well, some of the family has been contributing." The implication hung in the air. I hadn't contributed to the property taxes or maintenance in 5 years, because I didn't need to, because I paid for everything. "What about Emma?" my father asked. Uncle Richard waved his hand dismissively. "Emma's had a rough year, lost her job struggling to make rent from what I hear. I don't think it's fair to burden her with this decision. Besides, she's never contributed to the upkeep." I placed the last fork on the table, my movements mechanical and calm. "The buyers want to close before Christmas," Uncle Richard continued. "I've already had the preliminary inspections done. Title search came back clean. We just need everyone to sign off on the sale agreement." "Wait," Jessica said, leaning forward. If we're getting $1.2 million each, I can finally open that boutique in Newport. Lauren, you could pay off your student loans and buy a condo. Lauren nodded eagerly. And quit that horrible teaching job. Exactly, Uncle Richard said, pouring himself a generous glass of the expensive wine. Smart investments. This house is just sitting here most of the year, appreciating slightly while costing us a fortune. It's dead money. My mother looked uncertain. But this is where we've always celebrated Thanksgiving, where the kids learned to surf, where mom and dad, sentiment doesn't pay property taxes, Susan. Uncle Richard interrupted. Look, I loved my parents too, but they're gone. This is just a building. A very expensive building that's preventing all of us from living our best lives. I walked to the kitchen, filling a glass with water from the tap. Through the window, I watched a family walking on the beach below, their children running ahead, while a golden retriever chased the waves. I think we should do it, my father said finally. Richard's right, it's practical. My mother hesitated, then nodded. I suppose you're right, it does seem wasteful. Excellent, Uncle Richard said, pulling out more papers. I have the sale agreements right here. We can sign them after dinner. Make this Thanksgiving really something to be grateful for. Jessica was already on her phone, showing Lauren pictures of commercial spaces in Newport Beach. This one is perfect for a high-end boutique. With $1.2 million, I can lease it, renovate, and stock inventory. Michael came in from the deck with his wife. What's all the excitement? Uncle Richard is selling the beach house, Jessica announced. We're each getting over $1 million. Michael's eyes widened. Seriously, when? Closes in 30 days. Uncle Richard confirmed. I negotiated a quick close bonus. The buyers are a tech couple from San Francisco. They want it empty by January 1st. January 1st, my mother said. But that's so soon. That's the deal, Uncle Richard said. They're paying above market rate for the quick timeline. Take it or leave it. We'll take it, Jessica said immediately. God, this is perfect timing. Lauren, we could go in together on the investment property too. I returned to the dining room, beginning to arrange the serving platters. The turkey would be ready in 40 minutes. I'd prepared it the night before, getting up at 5 a.m. to put it in the oven at the correct time, just as I'd done for the past 8 years, since my grandmother had become too frail to cook. Where do we sign? My father asked. Uncle Richard spread 4 documents across the coffee table. Right here. Each of you gets a copy. My attorney has already reviewed everything. Shouldn't we have our own attorney look at this? My mother asked tentatively. Uncle Richard laughed. Susan, I've been in real estate for 35 years. I'm not trying to screw my own family. This is a standard sale agreement. But sure, if you want to waste money on another attorney, and possibly lose the deal while they review it, be my guest. No, my mother said quickly. I trust you. I checked my phone. The turkey had 15 minutes left. I walked to the oven, basting it one final time. The skin was golden brown. Perfect. Emma, honey, can you set out the appetizers? My mother called. People are getting hungry. I arranged cheese, crackers and grapes on a platter, carrying it to the living room. I set it on the coffee table, right next to Uncle Richard's sale agreements. Thanks, sweetheart, my father said absently, his eyes on the documents. Richard, this says the property address is 27846 Pacific Coast Highway. Is that right? That's this address, Uncle Richard confirmed. Malibu, California, 90265. 3 bedrooms, 3 bathrooms, 2,400 square feet, on a 7,500 square foot lot, with 50 feet of beach frontage. I returned to the kitchen, my phone in my pocket. It was 2:47 p.m. Right on schedule. I still can't believe we're doing this, Lauren said, her voice trembling with excitement. Do you know what $1.2 million means? I can stop living paycheck to paycheck. I can actually have a life. That's exactly what Mom and Dad would have wanted, Uncle Richard said smoothly. For all of you to thrive, not to be tied down to an expensive piece of property you can barely afford to maintain. Jessica was already making calculations on her phone. With $1.2 million, and if I invest half of it conservatively at 7% returns, that's $42,000 a year in passive income, plus the boutique income. I could clear $200,000 annually. Smart thinking, Uncle Richard approved. See, this is what I'm talking about. Strategic financial planning. The timer on my phone buzzed. The turkey was ready. I pulled it from the oven, the skin crackling perfectly. I let it rest on the counter while I finished the side dishes: garlic mashed potatoes, roasted Brussels sprouts with bacon, cranberry sauce from scratch, stuffing with sage and apple. Something smells incredible, Michael said, wandering into the kitchen. Emma, you outdid yourself. I smiled slightly but said nothing. She's been weird all day, he said to his wife. Barely said 2 words. She's probably upset about the house sale, his wife whispered back, though I could hear perfectly. I mean, she basically lives here half the time since she can't afford her own place. That part was actually true, in a way. I did spend a lot of time here, just not for the reasons they thought. At 3 p.m., I began carrying dishes to the dining table. The family migrated from the living room, drawn by the food. Uncle Richard brought his wine, still holding court about real estate markets and investment strategies. We should toast, he declared, raising his glass, to new beginnings and smart financial decisions. Everyone raised their glasses. I lifted mine, water not wine, and took a small sip. Now, I know Emma's had a tough year, Uncle Richard continued, his tone becoming magnanimous, in the way successful people speak about those they consider less fortunate. So I was thinking, Emma, sweetie, once we sell the house, maybe we can help you out with a few months' rent, get you back on your feet. That's generous, Richard, my mother said. It's what family does, Uncle Richard said. I mean, we all know she's been struggling. No job, that terrible studio apartment. It's only right that we help. I carved the turkey with precise, even strokes. White meat on one platter, dark meat on another. Actually, Jessica said, I was thinking Emma could come work at my boutique once I open it. I mean, it won't pay much at first, but it's something. That's a wonderful idea, my mother said encouragingly. Emma, wouldn't that be nice? Jessica's offering you a job. I arranged the turkey slices in overlapping rows, garnishing with fresh herbs. Retail might be good for her, Uncle Richard agreed. Get her out of the house, interacting with people, build her confidence back up. My father nodded. That's very kind of you, Jessica. I mean, it's minimum wage to start, Jessica clarified. Maybe $16 an hour, but with employee discounts and everything. Every little bit helps when you're struggling, Diane said sympathetically. I brought the turkey platters to the table, then returned for the side dishes. The family settled into their seats, still discussing my future employment in Jessica's hypothetical boutique. The key is building confidence, Uncle Richard said, carving himself a large portion of white meat. Emma's been knocked down. She needs to learn to get back up. Start small, minimum wage retail, work her way back up. Absolutely, my mother agreed. There's no shame in starting over. I took my seat at the far end of the table, the seat I'd occupied since childhood, the seat where I could see the ocean through the windows, where the afternoon light caught the waves. Let's eat, Uncle Richard declared. Then after dinner, we'll sign these papers and make it official. The family dug into the meal I'd prepared. Compliments flowed. Best turkey ever, perfect stuffing, incredible Brussels sprouts. I ate quietly, methodically. So the buyers, my father said, between bites. Who are they exactly? Tech money, Uncle Richard said. Young couple, early 30s, made a fortune in some app or software. I don't know the details. They wanted a beach house, they have cash, they don't care about inspections or contingencies. It's the dream scenario. And they're okay with the quick timeline, my mother asked. They prefer it, Uncle Richard said. They want to spend Christmas here. New traditions and all that. I checked my phone under the table. 3:28 p.m. What about all of Mom's things? Lauren asked. The furniture, the artwork, her jewelry. We'll divide it before closing, Uncle Richard said. Though honestly, most of it is outdated. The buyers want the place empty anyway. We can donate what we don't want. Mom's Steinway piano, my mother asked. It's worth maybe $20,000, Uncle Richard said dismissively. Split 4 ways, that's $5,000 each. Hardly worth the hassle of moving it. The buyers said they'd take it for an extra $15,000, added to the sale price. So we'd each get less than $4,000 for a piano, worth $20,000. Jessica asked. It's the convenience factor, Uncle Richard explained. Plus none of us play piano anymore. I did. I played every time I was here. But nobody asked me. I think we should just let them have it, my father said. Makes the sale cleaner. The conversation continued through the meal. Who would get which pieces of furniture? How to dispose of 30 years of family memories? When to schedule the estate sale? I cleared plates, brought out pumpkin and pecan pie, served coffee. At 3:47 p.m., my phone rang. I glanced at the screen. Right on time. I should take this, I said quietly. The first full sentence I'd spoken in an hour. Emma, we're in the middle of dinner. My mother chided. It's important, I said, standing and walking toward the living room. I answered the call and put it on speaker, setting the phone on the coffee table, where Uncle Richard's sale agreements were still spread out. Miss Martinez, a crisp professional voice filled the room. This is Catherine Brennan from Coastal Property Group. I hope I'm not interrupting your holiday. The dining table conversation stopped. Everyone turned toward the living room. Not at all, I said calmly. I'm calling to confirm the annual property tax payment for 27846 Pacific Coast Highway, Malibu. The payment of $52,847 has cleared from your account. I also wanted to verify the insurance renewal. Should we proceed with the same coverage at $18,200 annually? Uncle Richard stood up slowly, his face confused. Yes, that's fine, I said. Excellent, Catherine continued. And regarding the maintenance contract with Malibu Property Services, they've submitted the November invoice for $3,400. Approved payment. Approved, I said. Uncle Richard walked into the living room, staring at my phone. What the hell is this? Also, Catherine continued, oblivious to the tension, I have the updated title documentation you requested. It confirms continuous ownership of the property since May 15, 2018, purchased through Martinez Holdings LLC for $2.1 million. Current estimated value is $5.2 million based on recent comparable sales. Congratulations on the appreciation. The room went completely silent. Wait, Jessica said, standing up. What? One more thing, Miss Martinez, Catherine said. There's been some unusual activity on the property. Our monitoring service shows that someone ordered a title search last week without authorization. We also received an inquiry from a real estate attorney about a potential sale. Should I be concerned about unauthorized attempts to transact on your property? I looked directly at Uncle Richard. His face had gone from confused to pale. Yes, I said clearly. I'd like to discuss criminal trespassing charges against several individuals currently occupying the property. I'll have our legal team contact you immediately, Catherine said. Do you want the police involved? Not yet, I said, but I want documentation of the attempted fraud. Someone tried to sell property they don't own. Uncle Richard's wine glass slipped from his hand, shattering on the hardwood floor. Red wine spread across the white oak like blood. What? You can't, he stammered. My mother rushed into the living room. Emma, what is she talking about? I picked up my phone, ending the call, and looked at my family calmly. I bought this house 7 years ago. Grandmother sold it to me when she was diagnosed with Alzheimer's. She wanted to make sure it stayed in the family, but she knew leaving it to multiple heirs would cause exactly this kind of problem. That's impossible, Uncle Richard said, his voice rising. I'm the executor of the estate. I would have known. You're the executor of grandmother's personal estate, I corrected. Her savings, her jewelry, her car. This property wasn't part of her estate. She sold it to me in 2018 for $2.1 million. I have the deed, the title insurance, the purchase agreement, all properly filed with Los Angeles County. My father stood up, his face red. Emma, if this is some kind of joke, it's not a joke, I said. I walked to my purse and pulled out a folder I'd prepared weeks ago. Here's the recorded deed. Here's the title insurance policy. Here's the property tax payment history for the last 7 years, all paid by me. Here's the insurance documentation. Here's the maintenance contracts. I spread the documents on the coffee table right next to Uncle Richard's fraudulent sale agreements. Jessica grabbed the deed, her hands shaking. This real. It's notarized. It's recorded with the county. How did you afford $2.1 million? My mother demanded. You lost your job. You live in a studio apartment. You drive a 15-year-old Honda. I lost my corporate job, I said, at a tech company I founded and sold in 2017 for $47 million. I started it in my apartment, while you all thought I was temping at reception desks. The studio apartment in Van Nuys is my office space. I live here. Lauren was scrolling through her phone frantically. Oh my God, Emma Martinez. There's a TechCrunch article from 2017. Martinez sells AI customer service platform to Enterprise Solutions Corp for undisclosed sum. Holy shit, you've been living here? My mother said. But you always said you just came to visit. I said I spent a lot of time here, I corrected. Which is true, I live here about 5 days a week. I have an office in the valley for when I need to be in the city. You all just assumed I was visiting family property. Uncle Richard was staring at the documents, his mouth opening and closing silently. Let me understand this, my father said slowly. You've owned this house for 7 years, you've been paying all the expenses, and you never said anything. You never asked, I said simply. Every Thanksgiving, every Christmas, every summer vacation you all came here and complained about the property taxes and maintenance costs. I listened, I paid them. You assumed the estate was paying them, but I've been paying them, Uncle Richard said desperately. I have the canceled checks. You've been paying yourself, I said. Check the account you've been paying from. It's an account I set up and funded specifically for you to feel like you were contributing. You've essentially been paying me rent with my own money. Jessica dropped into a chair. This can't be happening. The sale agreement you were all about to sign, I continued, picking up one of the documents, is completely fraudulent. Uncle Richard attempted to sell property he doesn't own. That's real estate fraud. It's a felony in California. Now wait just a minute, Uncle Richard said, his attorney voice finally kicking in. There's clearly been a misunderstanding here. I was acting on behalf of the family based on the assumption you were acting on greed. I interrupted. You saw an opportunity to make $1.2 million by selling a property you thought belonged to all of us. You didn't consult the actual owner. You didn't do proper due diligence. You just assumed. Emma, honey, my mother said, her voice taking on a pleading tone. You have to understand how this looks. We had no idea. If you'd just told us, told you what? I asked. That I was successful, that I'd made money, would you have believed me, or would you have done exactly what you did today? Assumed I was lying, or exaggerating, or delusional. The silence that followed was answer enough. When I sold my company, I continued, I could have bought a mansion in Beverly Hills. I could have bought a penthouse in Manhattan. But I bought this house, because I love it, because grandmother trusted me with it, because I wanted to preserve the family memories. Then why didn't you tell us? Lauren asked. I wanted to see who you all really were, I said quietly. Grandmother warned me, before she sold it to me. She said money changes people. She said if the family knew one person owned the beach house, they'd either resent them or try to manipulate them. She was right. That's not fair, Jessica protested. We're family, I repeated. You just spent the last hour planning to sell my home without asking me. You offered me a minimum wage job in your boutique that you were going to fund with money from selling my property. You discussed donating my grandmother's piano, that I play every time I'm here, because you assumed none of you wanted it. Michael had been quiet throughout the entire exchange. Now he spoke up. The buyers, the tech couple from San Francisco, they don't exist, do they? No, Uncle Richard admitted quietly. I was going to use the signed agreements to force Emma to sell, show her that the whole family wanted it, make her feel guilty for holding on to it. So you were going to extort me, I said flatly. I was going to help you see reason, Uncle Richard corrected. This house is too much for one person. It should benefit the whole family. It does benefit the whole family, I said. You've all been coming here for free for 7 years. I've never charged you rent, never asked for contributions, never denied anyone access. I just asked that you not destroy it, or try to sell it out from under me. We didn't know it was under you, my father said weakly. Would it have mattered? I asked. If I'd told you 7 years ago that I bought this house, would you have been happy for me, or would you have immediately started calculating how to get your share? Nobody answered. I walked to the window, looking out at the ocean. The sun was starting to lower, casting golden light across the water. Grandmother told me something before she died. She said that poverty reveals character, but so does the possibility of wealth. You all just proved her right. So what happens now? Jessica asked, her voice small. I turned back to face them. Now you all finish your Thanksgiving dinner, then you leave, and you don't come back unless I invite you. Emma, you can't be serious, my mother said. This is family tradition. Family tradition, I repeated. Where you spend the whole day talking about how much of a failure I am. Where you plan to sell my home. Where you offer me charity jobs and pity money. We were trying to help, my mother protested. You were trying to help yourselves, I corrected. And that's fine, I understand. But you're going to do it somewhere else. Uncle Richard's face had shifted from shock to anger. You smug little bitch. You set us up. You let us humiliate ourselves, just so you could have this moment. No, I said calmly. You humiliated yourselves. I just didn't stop you. I could sue you. Uncle Richard threatened. Breach of fiduciary duty. Undue influence on an elderly woman. Try it, I said. I have everything documented. Grandmother's medical records showing she was completely competent when she sold me the house. The fair market appraisal, multiple attorneys who witnessed and approved the transaction. Plus I have recordings. Recordings? My father asked. I pulled out my phone. Every Thanksgiving for the past 5 years, I've recorded our gatherings, partly for memories, partly for protection. Would you like to hear what you all said about me last year, or the year before, or should we skip straight to this year's conversation, about how pathetic my life is? Jessica's face crumpled. You recorded us. In my own home, I said, which is completely legal in California as long as one party consents. I consented. This is insane, Michael said, standing up. Come on, honey, we're leaving. Good idea, I said. You should all leave. Emma, my father tried one more time. Can we please talk about this rationally? There's nothing to talk about, I said. You all made your feelings very clear. You think I'm a failure. You think I'm a burden. You think I need your help and charity. Well, I don't. I never did. We just wanted to help the family, my mother said, tears starting to form. Then help the family, I said. Respect each other. Support each other. Don't try to sell each other's homes. Uncle Richard gathered his fraudulent sale agreements with shaking hands. This isn't over. Yes it is, I said. And Richard, my attorney will be contacting you about the attempted fraud. I'm not pressing criminal charges, but you're going to sign a document acknowledging what you did. Insurance, you understand, in case you try something like this again. He left without another word, Diane hurrying after him. One by one, the rest of the family gathered their things. Jessica and Lauren wouldn't meet my eyes. Michael muttered something about being sorry. My parents were the last to leave. Emma, my mother said at the door. I know you're angry, but I'm not angry, I said truthfully. I'm disappointed. I gave you all every opportunity to treat me like family. You chose not to. Your father and I love you, she said. I know, I said, but love and respect are different things. You don't respect me. You probably never will. After they left, I stood in the silent house. The dining table was still covered with the remains of Thanksgiving dinner, half-eaten pie, cold coffee, dirty plates. I spent the next hour cleaning up. I wrapped leftovers, washed dishes, put away the good china. I erased every trace of the meal I'd prepared for people who saw me as a failure. At 6:30 p.m., as the sun set over the Pacific, I sat on the deck with a glass of wine. My phone rang. Catherine from Coastal Property Group. Miss Martinez, I wanted to follow up on our earlier call. Our legal team has reviewed the situation. Would you like us to pursue action against the individual who attempted the fraudulent sale? No, I said. Just document it. Send me copies of everything. Understood. Also, I wanted to remind you that your property has appreciated significantly. If you ever do decide to sell, we estimate current market value at $5.4 million, possibly higher, with the right buyer. I'm not selling, I said. I didn't think so, Catherine said warmly. You clearly love that house. I can hear it in your voice every time we talk about it. After we hung up, I sat watching the waves until the stars came out. Tomorrow I'd grocery shop for one. I'd cook meals I actually wanted to eat. I'd play the Steinway piano that nobody else thought was worth keeping. I'd spend Christmas here alone, probably, and New Year's, and next Thanksgiving, but at least I'd spend them in peace, in a home I'd earned, surrounded by memories I'd chosen to keep. My phone buzzed. A text from Jessica. I'm sorry I was greedy. I understand if you don't want to see me again. Then Lauren, you were always the smart one. We should have known. Then Michael, that was messed up. Uncle Richard shouldn't have done that. But you could have told us. Nothing from my parents or Uncle Richard. I didn't respond to any of them. Not yet. Maybe not ever. Instead, I walked inside, sat at my grandmother's piano, and played Chopin, her favorite. The notes filled the empty house, echoing off the windows, floating out to the ocean. Somewhere in San Francisco, a fictional tech couple was not buying this house. Somewhere in Newport Beach, Uncle Richard was explaining to his wife how his plan had fallen apart. Somewhere in Arizona, my parents were probably discussing what a cold, calculating person I'd become. Let them think what they wanted. I was Emma Martinez, owner of a $5.4 million Malibu beach house. I was Emma Martinez, who'd built and sold a tech company for $47 million. I was Emma Martinez, who'd been smart enough to document everything, patient enough to wait for the truth to emerge, and strong enough to stand alone. The piano music swelled, filling every corner of my home. My grandmother's home, now mine. And I'd never been more grateful for anything in my life.